Welcome back to my garden. I thought I'd start the week off with a thought or two, and actually something struck me over the weekend that I think is of probably quite general application, although the idea was provoked by, needless to say, for those of you who've watched a lot of my films, it was provoked by a newsletter. I subscribe to a lot of them. And this was one of my chess subscriptions. I receive a weekly newsletter from Grandmaster Alex Kolovich, and the content is generally very specific to chess. But he tends to take a more philosophical rather than analytical angle. And this week he made the observation that when he was growing up on his path to becoming a Grand Master, there really was only one way to do it. You played a lot, you reviewed your games, perhaps with a coach, and you studied chess from books. And all chess players followed the same sort of path, more or less. And depending on where you lived, what access to information you had, the games would come to you sooner or later. I grew up in South Africa, so a magazine was always a month or two out of date. It really didn't matter. I received the magazine and delved into the games as if they were brand new. Well, all that's changed. Nowadays, games are live streamed with commentary. It couldn't be easier, and the commentators couldn't be better. I'll be watching a tournament, and you'll have Judith Polgar and one of the famous Polgar sisters, Peter Lecko, commentating. Peter Lecko played in a World Championship match. Judith Polgar at her peak was in the world top 10, strongest female player ever. So, phenomenal players, fantastic commentators with terrific insights. But Alex Kolovich isn't so sure, and I think most chess players wouldn't really disagree with what he said, which was that really this kind of commentary, although you are, I suppose, learning something, it's a bit like, watching a football match or the Olympics. Watching the Olympics isn't going to make me a faster runner. It's very entertaining, but that's all it is. And actually, listening to the great sprinter Michael Johnson commentating, talking about how the athletes have prepared for this final, well, that isn't going to make me a better runner either. Now, chess is a little bit different. I'll grant you that. But the truth of the matter is that when we're watching a chess game, really it's interesting, and we might learn some sort of minuscule bit of information, but no more than that. If I'm to compare it to something, probably a good comparison would be one of my maths students back in the day when I was a maths teacher, and they'd listen to my sort of introductory words on how to solve quadratic equations by factorization. They might even follow the example very carefully, thoughtfully. But the truth of the matter is, until they actually start solving quadratic equations, and until they actually go away and try and think about what I've said, they won't be any the wiser, really. And even if they do remember it in the very short term, give them a day or two, and it's gone. And so it is with a lot of the chess information. We have become passive consumers. And this is what Alex Kolovich was advising us warning us against. And it's the same if you listen to pretty much any top flight coach. They talk about how, if you're going to improve, you need to improve through active learning. Now, whilst I am going to make a video about this for my chess channel, this is going out for general consumption. The chances are you're not a chess player. But I wanted to go into a little bit of detail just so you kind of get where I'm coming from, a bit of context. Because what happened next when I was sitting on the sofa, which now is even more comfortable than ever before. It's out on our veranda and there's a nice breeze blowing this time of the year. A thought struck me. This kind of passive absorption is true for pretty much everything. It wasn't always the case. If you wanted to watch athletics or football or even a movie, actually, you had to go somewhere. You had to do something. And certainly if you're watching football, either you went to the game, in which case there was all that theatre involved, or even if you were watching it, it was in a very restricted, limited dose. It was a bit like your mum might have given you an ice cream as a treat, but you got your ice cream and then that was it. That is not the case anymore. We are given stuff in a sort of infinite supply. So the temptation to absorb stuff passively in ever-increasing doses is, well, hard to resist. Again, I don't think I'm saying anything that is in general terms, just as what I was saying about chess. I think most chess players will agree. I think in general terms, people will agree. We absorb an enormous amount of stuff passively. But I think the problem is, rather like my maths students, who may well have thought when I'd done my explanation that they understood what I was talking about, or they knew how to solve quadratic equations by factorization. The truth dawned on them because, whether they liked it or not, they were forced to apply that information. They were forced to solve ever increasingly more difficult problems using the techniques that they've been shown. And if you think about the information that we're absorbing on a daily basis, it never goes beyond the superficial. You take some sort of topic, something that is heated, well-contested, divisive, immigration. Well, you listen to someone, you might listen to people from varying sides, but the truth of the matter is, it is passive. And when we come to, for want of a better phrase, apply that information that we might have got, or those insights that we might have got from the various media sources that are kind of foisting them upon us, the information hasn't been processed critically. It's not like, a maths lesson where initially you have to just parrot the technique you've been shown, then you have to kind of maybe do some sort of rearranging, a cunning trick to get it into the form, the sort of structure where you can apply the technique you've learned. And then you've got to use it in a novel problem where eventually it will be a technique necessary for solving the problem, but only eventually. Requires a great deal of thought to first construct the equation that you're going to apply your technique to. And this is not the case with the information that we're consuming. It comes in, never mind the sort of cognitive biases, the fact that we suffer from confirmation bias, or we live in an internet bubble, or there's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Forget all that sort of stuff. However diligent we are, however critical we are as a thinker, unless, having watched something, we actually process the information in some sort of active way, and that might be trying to reconstruct it, produce something that reflects upon that which we've been exposed to. Unless we do something to actually actively process the information, it simply becomes a sort of superficial substitute for knowledge and thought. We don't really know anything. We have something that we can parrot. We might be able to say more or less what it's about, but that's no different to a kid going home, and over the dinner table, their engineering mum might ask them, well, what did you do in maths today? And they'll say, well, we learnt about quadratic equations. And then mum, very literate mathematically, she's an engineer after all, might say, well, did you get some homework? Yes. Have you done it? Oh, of course I have. Wonderful. Do you understand what's going on? I certainly do. Of course, that may or may not be true. Little Johnny or Jane might have gone out and played football and not done any of their homework and have no real meaningful idea about quadratic equations, any more than little Johnny or Jane, or big Johnny and Jane, who's watched some sort of 15-minute deep dive into the problem of world immigration, as if 15 minutes would even touch the surface, never mind scratch it, or delve in beyond the surface. But those 15 minutes, I'll say, well, yes, I've got a grasp of immigration or inflation or whatever it might be, and they'll parrot the couple of words that they remember, rather like quadratic equations, and be none the wiser. And this is an enormous problem, because we are not being tested critically on what we are absorbing. Well, and that's it. Well, that's as far as I've got with this idea. I thought having had an idea that floated into my mind, I thought, well, I'd at least get it out there, onto the web. What do you think? And what this means for me, I mean, I know what it means for me in my endeavour to become a better chess player. And I know what this means for me as I try and develop my sculptural language, my deep dive into figurative wire sculpture. What this means for me in terms of how I engage with people about the weighty issues of the day, well, I'm not sure about that. The problem is, it does seem to me that a lot of the conversations I have with people, they are simply parroted slogans. I'm not sure how much I help. And I'm not sure if I should be the one to be trying in some sort of Socratic way to pose questions and provoke a little bit more critical thinking. And perhaps not. Perhaps the idea is somehow to gather a circle of people who realize that that's what they're looking for and hope to slowly expand the circle. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Let's go beyond just scratching the surface in a 15-minute meander or rant. That's it. Trust your lives are filled with joy, that whatever you're doing is not being done on a superficial level, at least not everything. And until next time, perhaps even later this week, from a sunny Brazil, ciao.